Hello and welcome back. Glad you're watching this video today. This is, I believe, the fifth episode of my Interregnum video series. And today I want to cover how does the Vatican function during this time? How does it function without a pope? It's a question that on the one hand it may seem very simple at first, but actually gets pretty complex for reasons that I hope to explain in this video. As I record this, it's Sunday, April the 27th. It's about noon here in Arkansas, which means it's already 7 p.m. in Rome. And before getting into really today's topic, I want to mention something else I saw in the news that I don't remember seeing 20 years ago in the interregnum between John Paul II and Benedict XVI. And that was that apparently the College of Cardinals gathered today and prayed solemn vespers, prayed evening prayer at St. Mary Major, the church where Pope Francis is now buried. And again, I don't remember that happening with John Paul II. Of course, he was buried at St. Peter's Basilica, as again, roughly half the popes in history have been. And so perhaps the difference this time being with Pope Francis buried somewhere else, the cardinals felt the need to gather in that place where he's buried, since they didn't necessarily have that chance to be at his tomb the way that maybe they did following the death of John Paul II. Or again, maybe someone will find that they did gather for Vespers at St. Peter's, where now St. John Paul II was buried after his funeral. But at any rate, I find just a little tidbit, little interesting thing there with the cardinals having a chance to pray together, not just anywhere, but in the church where Pope Francis is now buried. Sort of a nice touch on what's happening in things going on right now. So anyway, getting back to our main topic today, how does the Vatican function during a papal interregnum, during this time between popes? The norms, the law, if you will, for how this all happens is spelled out in a document called Universi Dominici Gregis. And it's called an Apostolic Constitution. And Constitution because it is a governing document. It is a real constitution in that sense of being the foundation for other laws to be made. The name is the Latin words for the Lord's whole flock. And the first words in English are the shepherd of the Lord's whole flock is the bishop of the Church of Rome. So the Latin wording would probably be Universi Dominici Gregis Pastor Episcopus Ecclesiae Romae or something. I'm not looking at the Latin, but that's what I'm saying based on what I see in English and based on the fact that most church documents get their title from the first two or three words of the document itself. And so you think about 1995, there's one called Evangelium Vitae, the Gospel of Life. So John Paul II had written this encyclical about all these different life issues, and he makes certain to put at the beginning these words, Gospel of Life, so that becomes the title. So they're very conscious of that as they're setting it out, but that's typically the case with church documents, as the first few words become the title of the document. And so Universi Dominici Gregis, it really is the constitution of the Holy See during this time between popes. Now, normally, the Pope can dispense from ecclesiastical law at any time. But with no Pope, there's no one to give that dispensation. So in that way, Universi Dominici Gregis actually has a stronger legal effect in some ways than other church legal documents do, in the sense that say, your typical Code of Canon Law, which is still enforced now, but the various provisions of the Code of Canon Law, if something comes up that was not foreseen before, something that makes for a reason for the Pope to say, you know what, that's not what we were thinking about here, I'm going to give a dispensation. I will modify the law or modify its application in this particular practice. Because the church normally does not operate with a separation of powers mentality that a lot of modern governments do, and that's the case for the U.S. government. You have your executive, your legislative, your judicial branches, That's not the way that church governance is normally set up. In fact, church governance really tries to look toward empowering the decision maker rather than splitting that power up among various ways. So there's no pope right now, obviously. So there's no one to give a dispensation from something that might seem inconvenient or difficult or whatever. And so, again, Universi Dominici Gregis is a very important apostolic constitution in that sense, and very important right now. Again, it was promulgated by Pope John Paul II in 1996. Prior to that, there were other documents that did the same thing. So it's not like, they were just wandering around lost without something like that. But there were always other church legal documents to govern these interregnum periods. But 1996, you had the major overhaul with Universi Dominici Gregis. It's been modified a bit. Benedict XVI made a few modifications. I think Pope Francis made a couple of small modifications. If you search for it online, you can find it on the Vatican website, and what you'll find is the current version with the alterations incorporated into that document. And I believe you can click on a spot for a PDF of what Universi Dominici Gregis looked like when it was first promulgated in 1996, and then, if you're really wanting to get into the weeds and could compare the two. But I'm just going to be speaking today about, again, those provisions of it that guide us for what we're doing now. This same apostolic constitution governs also how the conclave itself works. And I'll have a later video about that. I'm not yet talking about the conclave. I'm just talking about sort of the church's day-to-day business, as it were, during a time without a pope. So paragraph 2 of Universi Dominici Gregis says, during the vacancy of the apostolic see, the government of the church is entrusted to the College of Cardinals solely for the dispatch of ordinary business and of matters which cannot be postponed, and for the preparation of everything necessary for the election of the new pope. So the College of Cardinals cannot alter the election process. That's a key thing here. So even though the College of Cardinals is in charge of things as a group, even as a group, they cannot say, you know what, we don't like that whole 2/3 thing. We're going to change it to 3/5, or we're going to change it to 51%. Nope, it's got to be that. Or if they say, we find this whole process with having to go through the Camerlengo and the particular congregations and things, which I'm going to explain later, we find that cumbersome, so we want to change that now. Well, no, they can't do that. They specifically don't have the power to do that. But a majority of the College of Cardinals can act to clarify or interpret a point. So if there's something that's vague, something that's doubtful, something that is hard to interpret, paragraph 5 does give them the authority to interpret a point of doubt. But of course, again, they don't have the authority to alter anything. Allergy season is hitting pretty hard right now. So got to keep the water going. So what is the Camerlengo? Again, I talked about this in a previous video. The Camerlengo, you could translate as Chamberlain, but he's the one who's designated to be kind of the day-to-day administrator, the day-to-day manager almost of the life of the Holy See when we are without a pope. That's Cardinal Kevin Farrell. And so he has some authority. Early on, he's the one who announced the Pope's death. He's the one who, makes some of the preparations necessary. But also, he has to rely a lot on the general congregations, which is the name given to the meeting of all the cardinals, and particular congregations, which is a smaller group. So I'll talk about those two things here. The general congregations means all the cardinals involved, as long as they can be present in Rome, even those who are not able to vote. Unless the cardinal is just unable to attend, he can be in the general congregations. And so you probably know cardinals over the age of 80 are not able to cast a vote, but they can, not able to cast a vote for pope, that is. They're not able to enter the conclave, but they can enter the general congregations. And again, the general congregations are primarily looking at day-to-day business in the church, things that cannot wait until the election of the new pope. Now, the general congregations actually have started already. The pope died on Monday the 21st, and the first meeting of the general congregations was Tuesday, April the 22nd. And they had to start early. There was some kind of chatter online. There's always kind of an outrage culture, as it were, at different times, people wanting to get upset about something. And one thing some people were trying to get upset about that first day was, why are they starting so early? The cardinals from different parts of the world can't get here that quickly. It's true. Not many cardinals can get there that quickly, but that's kind of foreseen. You know, it says in Universi Dominici Gregis, it speaks about cardinals arriving some days after the general congregations have begun. It also spells out in paragraph 13 things that the first meeting of the general congregation has to do. The first general congregation has to decide the day, the hour, and the manner in which the Pope's body is made available for viewing. It has to decide arrangements for funeral rites, the Novim Dialis that I talked about in yesterday's video. So you can imagine if they would have said, gosh, we've got to wait, we can't start this whole general congregation until everybody can get here, that's going to be 3 days from now. Then what happens? We're just sitting around waiting, and with no funeral date, no Pope's body available for viewing, no other preparations being made, no governance at all of the Holy See? That would be pretty rough. And so that's why the general congregations started on Tuesday, and that's totally consistent with what's happened before. When John Paul II died, he died late on a Saturday night. The first meeting of the general congregations was Monday morning. So this was slightly faster, but that's owing only to the fact that Pope Francis died in the morning. Pope John Paul II died late at night, and late at night on a Saturday, which meant, Sunday's not the day they like to start these sorts of things. So they waited till Monday in that case. The Dean of the College of Cardinals presides over the general congregations, and that dean right now is Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re. Cardinal Re is about 91 years old, so he will not be in the conclave, but he is the dean, and so he does preside over the meeting of the general congregations. During these meetings, again, they're looking at day-to-day governance in the life of the church. They're also having a lot of discussions about what the church needs. What do we need in a new pope, even? What is the state of the church in the world? What are the kind of qualities maybe being looked at? And so some of these may happen publicly, and sometimes it's over coffee break. It's those informal gatherings that also help the College of Cardinals to get to know one another and help them to be ready to cast their vote for the next pope. The particular congregations, the Camerlengo is involved there. Again, he's the day-to-day kind of administrator. He's the guy that's making sure the lights stay on and the bills get paid. He's assisted by 3 others. And there are 3 classes of cardinals. There are cardinal bishops, cardinal priests, and cardinal deacons. I'll have a separate video about the College of Cardinals and break some of that down later. But just for now, know that there are the 3 classes of cardinals. And so paragraph 7 of Universi Dominici Gregis says that the assistants for the particular congregations are chosen by lot from among the cardinal electors already present in Rome. So that means they have to be under 80. They have to be already in Rome. And again, 1 bishop, 1 priest, 1 deacon. Again, of their title, cardinal bishop, cardinal priest, cardinal deacon. The reality is they're almost all bishops, but they have a title of either cardinal bishop, cardinal priest, or cardinal deacon. Particular congregations are to deal only with questions of lesser importance, which arise on a daily basis or from time to time. This is paragraph 8. The office of these cardinals, in paragraph 7, these cardinals called assistants, that's the 3 that are helping the Camerlengo in the particular congregations. The office ceases at the conclusion of the 3rd full day, and their place is taken by others, also chosen by lot, and having the same term of office, also after the election has begun. So the particular congregations continue to exist even when the conclave begins, and they continue this rotation of every 3 days. There's a different cardinal priest, a different cardinal deacon, a different cardinal bishop, chosen by lot, so names drawn out of a hat, presumably, that assist the Camerlengo in forming the particular congregations. All right, well, thank you for joining me today. That covers the first part of this topic of how does the Vatican function during this time without a pope. My next video, I want to touch things that absolutely have to stop, things that cannot happen without a pope. And so, because today I talked more about how things are happening, tomorrow's video will be things that cannot happen until we get a new pope. So again, thank you for joining me. I'm glad to have you here, and look forward to making the next video tomorrow. Thanks a lot, and God bless you. Happy Easter.